For nearly 6 decades, the official story has been clear. Robert F. Kennedy was shot by a lone gunman. Case closed. But in June 2025, something extraordinary happened. Over 1,400 previously classified CIA documents were declassified. Pages that had been sealed in vaults, marked beyond top secret, were suddenly out in the open. And what those files reveal doesn't just raise new questions. It rewrites history. Because if these documents are real, and they are government records, then the story you've always heard about Bobby Kennedy's assassination may be one of the greatest cover-ups in American history. So let's go back to the night everything changed. It's June 5, 1968. America is in turmoil. The Vietnam War has torn the country apart. The Tet Offensive shocked the nation. Martin Luther King Jr. had been assassinated just 2 months earlier, and the civil rights movement is burning with grief and anger. In the middle of that storm stands Robert F. Kennedy Bobby. To millions of Americans, he is not just another politician. He's a symbol of hope, a voice against war, poverty, and racial injustice. That night, he wins the California Democratic primary. At only 42 years old, the presidency is within his grasp. Crowds chant his name, believing he could heal a broken country. But as Kennedy leaves the stage at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles, he takes a shortcut through the hotel kitchen. It's 12:15 in the morning. He is smiling, shaking hands, surrounded by staff and security. And then gunfire, chaos. Robert Kennedy falls to the floor, mortally wounded. Within minutes, a 24-year-old immigrant named Sirhan Sirhan is tackled, arrested, and declared the assassin. He is carrying a .22 caliber revolver. Case closed, or so the public was told. From the beginning, things didn't add up. Kennedy was shot from behind at point-blank range, but nearly every witness placed Sirhan several feet in front of him. Sirhan's revolver held just 8 bullets. Yet audio evidence and witness accounts suggest as many as 13 shots were fired. Multiple people claimed to see another gunman. And one name keeps coming up, security guard Thane Eugene Caesar, who was walking directly behind Kennedy at the moment of the shooting. But here's where it gets darker. The LAPD destroyed key pieces of evidence. Kennedy's clothes, which showed bullet holes inconsistent with the official story. Witness testimony was altered or discarded. And the FBI's files? Sealed for decades. And then there's the CIA. For years, they claimed they had nothing to do with it. But the newly declassified documents tell a very different story. One of the most shocking files is document 104-104-10271. It confirms that the CIA was actively surveilling Robert Kennedy in the months before his death. They monitored his phone calls. They tracked his meetings. They even infiltrated his campaign staff. Why? Because Kennedy wasn't just running for president. He was threatening the very core of the intelligence establishment. He promised to end the Vietnam War. He spoke openly about reopening the investigation into his brother's death, President John F. Kennedy. And like his brother, he vowed to dismantle the CIA's unchecked power, famously saying he would splinter it into 1,000 pieces. Sound familiar? Those were the same words that haunted John F. Kennedy before Dallas in 1963. And here's the chilling detail. Document 104-104-10298 shows that just 3 weeks before the assassination, the CIA circulated a report titled Potential Threats to RFK Campaign. And listed among those threats was a name, Sirhan Sirhan. 3 weeks before Kennedy was killed, the CIA had already flagged the man accused of shooting him. Coincidence? or something far more sinister? The documents also shed light on something conspiracy researchers have whispered about for decades: mind control experiments. One file, document 104-10414-10334, references Operation Artichoke, an early CIA program that predated MKUltra. Officially, it ended in the 1950s, but the documents suggest otherwise. Techniques from those programs, hypnosis, psychological conditioning, even chemical manipulation, were refined for years. And according to these files, they may have been used in 1968. Sirhan himself has always claimed he doesn't remember pulling the trigger. For decades, critics dismissed this as convenient amnesia. But what if he was telling the truth? Another document, 104-104-14-10289, mentions a subject preparation protocol tested on Middle Eastern assets in May 1968, just 1 month before the assassination. And then there's the mysterious woman in the polka-dot dress. Multiple witnesses reported seeing her with Sirhan that night. Some even heard her shout, "We shot him! We shot him!" as she fled the scene. The LAPD spent years trying to discredit those witnesses. They said she never existed. But document 104-104-14-10312 confirms the presence of a female operative at the Ambassador Hotel. Her code name? Polka-dot. Now let's talk about Thane Eugene Caesar, the security guard standing directly behind Kennedy when he was shot. The official story says Caesar never fired his weapon. He was just doing his job. But the files tell a different story. Document 104-104-10356 reveals that Caesar worked part-time for a company called Ace Guard Service, a firm with confirmed CIA connections. He also owned a .22 caliber revolver, the exact type of weapon that killed Robert Kennedy. 3 months later, he sold that gun to a man who vanished. The autopsy confirmed Bobby was shot from behind, at close range. Sirhan, positioned several feet in front, could not have fired the fatal shot. But Caesar, he was in the perfect position and holding the right caliber weapon. And then comes the bombshell. Document 104-104-10378 shows Caesar received multiple $500 payments from a CIA front company, Pacific Security, in the months before the assassination. Adjusted for inflation, that's over $4,000 today. For what services? The document lists his assignment as close protection detail. But protection for whom? Kennedy, or the people who wanted him gone? The assassination was only half the story. The cover-up began within hours. The LAPD burned Kennedy's blood-stained clothes. They destroyed key pieces of evidence. They melted down Sirhan's revolver. Witness statements that mentioned a second gunman or the polka-dot woman disappeared. Why destroy evidence in one of the most important crimes of the century? A memo dated June 6, 1968, just 1 day after the shooting, provides the answer. Written by CIA Deputy Director Richard Helms to LAPD Chief Thomas Redden, it instructed police to limit investigation scope to avoid national security complications. In plain terms, don't dig too deep. Destroy what you need to destroy. Protect the bigger machine. And yet, some evidence slipped through. Audio tapes from that night captured not 8 shots, but 13. The government long dismissed this as echoes. But document 104-104-10423 admits that secondary gunfire was detected from the kitchen entrance, the very spot where Caesar stood. So why kill Robert Kennedy? The files make it clear. Document 104-104-104-1 0445 was titled RFK Administration Threat Assessment. It outlined exactly what a Kennedy presidency would mean: immediate withdrawal from Vietnam, a full investigation into JFK's assassination, budget cuts to the CIA, billions lost for defense contractors, and perhaps worst of all for the establishment, public exposure of covert operations they had spent years hiding. To the intelligence community and the military-industrial complex, Bobby Kennedy wasn't just a political opponent. He was an existential threat. And remember, this came just 2 months after Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination, and only 5 years after JFK. 3 leaders, 3 assassinations, always a lone gunman, always the same result. The system remained intact. Put all of this together, and the picture is chilling. The CIA was monitoring Kennedy for months. They identified Sirhan Sirhan and may have manipulated him using mind control experiments. They had operatives inside the hotel, including a mysterious woman in a polka-dot dress. And when the moment came, Sirhan was the distraction. The real assassin was behind Kennedy, delivering the fatal shots at point-blank range. And within hours, the cover-up began. Evidence destroyed, witnesses silenced, records sealed for half a century. These newly released documents don't just challenge history, they challenge the very foundation of American democracy. If a presidential candidate could be assassinated in 1968, and the truth hidden for nearly 60 years, what else has been buried? Robert Kennedy once said, "Every society gets the kind of criminal it deserves." What is equally true is that every community gets the kind of law enforcement it insists on. Today, in the age of the internet, we have something that wasn't possible in 1968. The ability to demand answers, to share information, and to uncover truths that institutions would rather keep in the dark. So the question is, what do you believe happened that night? Was Sirhan Sirhan just a lone gunman, or a pawn in something much larger? They silenced Robert Kennedy's voice, but they could not silence the truth forever. If you believe the truth matters, share this video. Leave your theory in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more hidden history, because the past isn't finished. It's still alive, and sometimes it's still dangerous.